It's the day after the big drop. I did glue this up last night. And you can actually see this crack a little more than the one on the other side, but it's back together. I did find that one of the servo wires was nicked right there. I'll have to see if it cut all the way through. I think it did. But that's the pan and the tilt. So I may have to fix that too, but that's it. I've been looking at all this and studying on it overnight, and I've made some decisions. These batteries just aren't going to last long enough to do an auto tune on the quad part of this. I do have some others, but there's problems with them. This is a 2200 milliamp hour 4S. It would fly it longer than the small batteries. The problem is this battery doesn't really go in the platform and let me do a CG with it, and actually it doesn't let me close the top. So that battery doesn't fit. Now that battery is I think it's 160C burst, and it's an 80C constant. So I'm wondering if this battery isn't just thicker than, let's say, if you could find a 2200 milliamp hour 20C battery. Might be a little thinner and lighter. So let me show you over here on the computer what I'm talking about. And what's going on here is, from the few little flights I've had using that 1300 milliamp hour battery, this is third or fourth one, it just isn't going to last long enough to do a tune. Got my failsafe voltage set to 15.2 volts or 15 volts, I think it is. But in the short time that flew yesterday, which was approaching 5 minutes, you can see right in here my battery's down to 15.16 when the event happened. It was close to fail-safing. My thinking is this battery is just not going to have enough time on it. Unless I can pop this platform up, I could probably lower my voltage down. Let's see real quick. Let's see, 3.2 is the lowest. I should take those batteries down. So I could take it down to 12.8 to make sure it gets down to that point. I'd probably have to set it for 13.8. So I may be able to get a quad tune on those batteries by just really pushing them. Popping the platform up quick, getting it into the auto tune, Q auto tune actually, really quick. It may have enough time to finish. Else, I'm going to have to find a different battery that will both fit, not add enough weight to cause the current to go up so much that it gets used up. So that's a possibility. Let's look real quick at an auto tune. This is a normal Q auto tune. This platform is staying in place. It's a quad instead of a tricopter like mine. It's staying in place pretty good, and it's all automatic. You invoke it, it sits there and twitches back and forth until it decides it's finished. with the tune, and it stops on its own. Nothing crazy about this. All automated. The problem with mine is it doesn't want to stay in loiter in an area as well as this one does, and I can't find a battery that gives me enough flight time to do this. But the auto tune for a quadcopter is completely automated. You just start it, it does its thing. Oh, by the way, I set my battery failsafe yesterday to land instead of return to home or Q return to home, so that if it ran out of battery, it would just land right where it is. That is not what happened that caused it to dive into the ground. So I may be able to sneak a good Q auto tune out it by really pushing those batteries to the limit. I'll try that when I get back from vacation, plural. We're going to DC 4 days after we get back from Orlando this month, so whatever. I'm going to be down for a while. I'm not doing any videos or anything with these things. But the long and the short of this is yesterday I shared Painless 360's video about how hard it was and took them 6 months to get a T1 Ranger tuned well. I rewatched that video and got a lot of tidbits out of it. First of all, Ardu Plane 4.40 was the first firmware that actually did a proper tune. There were problems in the code. Mr. Piper talks about that in that video, where there was a pitch A that's not being tuned. He had to add that into the code, etc., etc., etc. Also, in 6 months, he went through 3 or 4 of these platforms, they say. I haven't really been through one. We call it on my second one, if you want to count taking out the flight controller and redoing it with an F743 wing, H743 wing, I guess. You could say I was on my second platform. Evidently, he had more trouble than I did. And I honestly think the reason it took them 6 months to get a good tune on the T1 Ranger VTOL was correspondence back and forth. But if you listen to the video closely, plane 435, whatever the last version was, did not do a proper auto tune. That's the way this came from the factory. They weren't using 440 on it even. So no matter what kind of tune they did at the factory, it's not going to be sufficient. So me trying to do the Q auto tune on a 440, actually it's now 441, is on the new firmware that has all the fixes in it. I should be able to get a better tune than He-Wing got before they shipped it. Also, they did talk before Christmas. They're going to try to get out a video to explain all their stuff. So the next time I fly this, I'm going to do the airplane auto tune. That's completely different from a quad type auto tune. It's not automated. It just goes into auto tune mode while you're flying it, and then you bang the sticks right and left as far as they'll go, as fast as you can, basically making sure you go all the way on each side before you start back to the other side. And after the display tells you that it's tuned the roll, you start banging the sticks forward and backwards to tune the pitch. The platform still does the PID tunings within it, but it's not automated like a Q auto tune or a normal quad auto tune, where you tell it what axis to tune, put it up in altitude hold, invoke the auto tune, and sit back and watch. But the airplane tune is just simple. There's nothing to banging the sticks right and left, forward and back, and you usually don't auto-tune yaw on an airplane. So if you go back and watch that video, they just really say, unless you have 440 and or above, you're never going to get a good auto tune on this platform. It's going to have problems. Mr. Piper talks about his problems getting it in and out of a transition without problems. You can see I've had certain little problems with transition too. So when vacationing calms down a little bit here at the end of October, I'll get back on this thing, auto tune it as an airplane, and then I'll just fly it that way with a partial Q auto tune on it, unless I decide to push them batteries really low and attempt to get a full Q auto tune. And I'll just fly it that way until Painless 360 and Mr. Piper come out to explain their parameter changes completely so that I fully understand them. Now, I did find some other things in Mr. Piper's parameters I'd like to show you. Now, if we look at his parameters here, just raw in a notepad, you'll notice right down at the bottom, there's a yaw 2, looks like servo. I'm not sure what that is. I'd have to look it up. There's two parameters for yaw here where it looks like there's some dampening of some kind going on, and I'm not sure what this one is right now without looking it up. That might be what would let me use his PIDs and stop that little waggle of the tail that we saw when I put his PIDs. When I just copied the QA pitch D, pitch I, pitch P, roll, pitch I, P, and D, and the yaw. Maybe I shouldn't have done the yaw. The D, the I, and the P, that's when I got that tail wagging. So I may be able to get away with basically duplicating his tune by not putting the yaw in at this time, and I may try that when I get back from vacation. But there's various things in here that need to be explained to me by him, why he did it, and what he's doing to accomplish what he's trying to accomplish with that. So I don't feel too bad about my efforts, but that's what I will do in the next one. We'll just do an airplane auto tune and call it done until I get more information from Mr. Piper about his parameters. Okay, guys, that's all for today, unless somebody has a suggestion for a battery above that 1300 milliamp hour 4S that would fit in the airplane and let me have a little more time on the Q auto tune. Oh yeah, one more thing I forgot to show you yesterday. This is that motor, and looks like aeronaut prop. Yeah, they're aeronaut props too, and a aeronaut prop adapter. Oh man, that's loose. That might be why the person who owned this before, oh well, it's just the nuts loose. But this was the motor I found right within 3 feet of where my airplane hit the ground. So somebody else's airplane hit the ground right there too. So there's obviously something geographically wrong with that particular spot on the ground. It must suck things down to the ground without nothing anybody can do about it right there. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. All right, thanks guys.